Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to the Lepanto Institute's Anchor Team. I'm your host, Michael Hitchborn, and I have got a great show lined up for you today. My good friend Jason Jones is going to be joining us from Hawaii, where we're going to talk about what he's doing with the Vulnerable People Project and how he got it started. I don't know that story. I want to know more about it. I want to know more about what he does. He's going to tell a really great story about a project that he and I collaborated on. It's going to be a fantastic show. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. But before we get started, why don't we go ahead and open with our prayer? In nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum. Benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. Our Lady of Victory, pray for us. In nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. I'm not going to drag out any kind of long-term opening. Jason Jones is larger than life. He's too big for me to give an open to, so I'm just going to bring him in the room. Jason, how are you doing, my brother? It's good to see you.
I'm doing good, brother. I'm outside of Lahaina right now at Sacred Heart School, the pop-up school. So I apologize. The audio might be not the best.
It sounds great, actually.
Good. But you're tonight for all the students of Sacred Heart School. There's going to be we're having a big get together. We're having like the best type, all kinds of Hawaiian food. And it's the first gathering in Lahaina since the fire. So You may hear, the food truck guys unloading their food. So,
all right, good stuff.
I am so excited, Michael, that I know we're talking about what we did together in Sudan, but I have the privilege of being on your show, really on sacred ground. I'm in a church, and this community, the Lanakila miracle that everyone saw, the church that was not burned down, but the school was. And so we are at the location of this new school that came here by boat. We took it from the boat to jet skis, from jet skis to a bucket brigade in the ocean, where we took stuff from the jet skis, handed them up the beach to the trucks. So I can't wait to tell the students today that everything they touch came by boat to Oahu, from Oahu, and then came here by jet ski. This is the first Guinness Book of World Records, if you're listening. This is the first school in history where everything in the school came here by jet ski.
That's a great story. So you and I have known each other for, I was doing the math earlier today. I think it's like 15 years.
At least. Yeah. I think maybe even 20, but yeah, at least. Did I meet you when I worked at American Life League or Human Life International?
When I was working for American Life League, we were both at the, I think it was 2009 or 2010. We both went to the Catholic Leadership Conference.
Okay. You have a good memory. So you're right. 13 years.
So that's when we met. And at that time you were doing a bunch of stuff with movies, and you were raising money for some films. I can't remember what the first one was.
Little Boy, I think Bella, and then Little Boy.
Bella was the first one.
I think we were marketing our film Stoning of Soraya M and raising money for our film Little Boy.
Yes. I remember that. So over the course of we would bump into each other at different conferences, and we'd see each other. And so you and I have known each other for a long time. And then when you told me that you were doing the Vulnerable People Project, I had no idea that this had been a thing you were doing for such a long time. In fact, I had no idea that this was the primary thing that you did, and the movie stuff was secondary. So tell us a little bit about, how did you get started with the Vulnerable People Project? How did it even get launched?
I'm really grateful that you asked that question. So in 2002, I founded the name of the organization is the Human Rights Education and Relief Organization.
H.E.R.O.
And then we have two main programs, Movie to Movement and the Vulnerable People Project. Our mission is to defend the vulnerable from violence by promoting solidarity and by inspiring solidarity and promoting human dignity. And we do that through Movie to Movement by marketing films that others have made that we like the message of, through our we pioneered the sort of grassroots marketing that everyone uses now. We worked on The Passion, we worked on a lot of films, then we produced Bella, and then my team with Bella just had the great success with Sound of Freedom. And so that's what Movie to Movement does. And the Vulnerable People Project, it accomplished the mission of H.E.R.O by standing with the most vulnerable people in the world when the world is left, through direct influence campaigns and through relief efforts. And so if there is any other organization effectively on the ground doing the job, as soon as they're there, we leave. We like to run influence campaigns, but sort of the direct action. So you're right. The first article that came out about us was the month we were founded. It was Human Events did an article, a spotlight at Human Events on this new group, this new conservative human rights organization, which people thought was very odd,
Right. Yeah.
And I knew people would think it was odd. And I knew that it would probably take me a long time to get people to kind of understand that our understanding of human dignity and human rights is grounded, it's Catholic social teaching and in the Anglosphere as communicated through the English-speaking peoples.
Right.
And even the Declaration Principle really comes from, the British Bill of Rights, the English Bill of Rights, I apologize. I think it was 1688, something like this, then the Magna Carta. Right. So it really is grounded. The one thing our founding fathers got wrong is when they said that the Declaration Principle is self-evident. It wasn't self-evident until the incarnation of the second person became man. Yep. And a lot of serious and thoughtful people for centuries meditated on what does it mean for God to become man and what does it mean for us to become made in the image of God. So by the time these grandchildren of the Puritans were kicking around, it just seemed like an axiomatic truth, as Ayn Rand calls it, axiomatic. Well, no, it's Christian anthropology. And of course, a Catholic social teaching on solidarity, on subsidiarity, on a humane economy. These are the foundations of a just social order. Really, Catholic social teaching provides an architecture of protection for the vulnerable. And so that is the mission of H.E.R.O, and that is the mission of the Vulnerable People Project. Our name was I Am Whole Life. The program changed its name about 7 years ago. I wanted something that communicated a consistent ethic, divorce from the seamless garment, which would submerge the child in the womb in an ocean of prudential issues. And then sometimes people on the right would react to that and say nothing is like incommensurate to abortion. Well, no. Genocide, democide, unjust total war, these are like incommensurate issues. So I wanted an organization that defended the vulnerable, that were in like and commensurate positions to the child in the womb. As a former infantryman, I had this vision of 550 cord, these little, parachute cord, these little threads of string that are then wrapped in a nylon sheath. So to me, the child in the womb, the Uyghur and Chinese occupied East Turkestan, the Christians in the Nuba Mountains, the Yazidi in Iraq, they're each little threads. My idea was to take the pro-life movement and wrap it like a nylon sheath around all these threads, and together they become unbreakable. That's the mission of H.E.R.O from the very beginning. And it's so great to see, like, so many of our partners that I work with in Afghanistan and Chinese occupied East Turkestan and Iraq have become my partners in the United States and working to defend the child in the womb. So we changed our name to VPP when 6 or 7 years ago, all the seamless garment groups, not all of them, but so many of them, started using Whole Life, which I created in 2007.
Yep, I remember.
And I was like, I created this to differentiate myself from you guys. I know I'm very attractive and you want to stand next to me, but and so that's when I'm like, gosh, inspired by Rene Girard. Girard gave me the language to communicate our mission more effectively. He talked in in the 1990s, in the mid 1990s, he coined this term victimism, which was so prophetic that he saw this in the 90s. He said, victim is feigning concern for the vulnerable for wealth, power, or prestige. To truly stand with the vulnerable is to become as vulnerable as they are. So think of Peter and the crowd. You're with the Galilean. No, I'm not. Because if he said yes, he would be probably killed too, right? So when you kiss a leper, people treat you like a leper. And I always tell my team, we'll never have competition. When your mission is to kiss lepers, as much as we would like to inspire other organizations to come along with us to Afghanistan, to Iraq, to the Nuba Mountains, it's not always easy. And we understand that that's our role. And again, this is why we're a uniquely Catholic apostolate. What I say is, as Catholics, we really know Christ on the cross.
Yep.
On Palm Sunday, everyone's there. When everyone's there trying to see Jesus, I don't like crowds. I'm going to go fishing that day because the lake's going to be wide open, right? I'll be fishing. On the Last Supper, when all the muckety mucks are there, I won't even be invited, so I don't have to worry.
Right.
And, but when no one is there, I want to be there with Christ. And that's what we do when we stand with the Uyghur in East Turkestan. That's what we do when we stand with the H.E.R.O in Afghanistan. And that's our very unique mission. And I think it's very Marian. Our Lady is our model.
Yeah.
And
Well,
when you
she's
can
also
really,
your mantle.
was Our Lady, I don't remember. She wasn't there on Palm Sunday, was she?
Oh, she was.
Oh, she was? Okay.
Mhm.
But maybe I should be there on Palm Sunday. I changed my mind. I'll be there if Our Lady is there. But yeah, I want to be with Christ on the cross. And the way to do that is to serve beautiful human beings made in God's image who feel that no one is thinking of them, no one cares for them. And I'm a failure. Our organization fails a lot. We're going to talk about success today, but I think of all the times we've really tried to help people and we failed. But then I remind myself I didn't fail,
Right.
because they knew somebody was fighting for them.
Right.
And
Yep.
that gave them hope.
And, you know, I have to say, it's amazing to me to hear you talk like this, because, you know, you came from an atheist background. That, I mean, you were pro-life, you were fighting for life, but you had an atheist start. Then you worked for Father at HLI.
Father Marks.
Father Marks. You worked for Father Marks at HLI, and I know he was working on you.
Everyone was working on me, I can tell you. I put a sign on my door. I was an atheist, and I used to do TV shows for HLI, and I would say I'm not a Catholic, but I play one on TV. I was on Bill Maher's Politically Incorrect, and Bill just kept ripping the Catholic Church, and I just sat there smiling, you know, like, okay. And then I defended the church, I believe very articulately and very effectively, because what he was saying was silly, but, you know, he couldn't get under my skin, and I thought, poor fella, doesn't know I'm an atheist, you know. But I was so anti-Catholic. I was so angry, and I was very because I was wrestling with the church, and I was wrestling with scandal, right? Scandal, the stumbling blocks that we experience as people that keep us from the faith. And so I had all this kind of bitterness, and I made a sign that I got the idea from the movie Life is Beautiful.
Yeah.
Was spiders or Visigoths allowed? And I had an asterisk. By spiders, I mean Catholics, and by Visigoths, I mean you.
Right.
And that door. And people, how I was never fired is just really quite a miracle.
Well, you're such a likable guy. It would be hard to fire you, I think. But so to hear you talk about this, and to be so Marian, and to understand the suffering and the merits of suffering, and what it means to be united to Christ on the cross through the people that you are assisting, I want to get into a little bit of some of the on the ground work that you've done. You've been in Ukraine. You actually helped to extract people out of Ukraine. You and I collaborated on one project in the Middle East, where I was alerted to the fact that there were some nuns that were trying to get out in the middle of a civil war. They were trapped. And the person that came to me said, I'm trying to put together a team. I said, don't. I said, I know the person to talk to. And I immediately went to you, and I gave you all of the information, and you and your team were able to go in and rescue those nuns and a bunch of others. Could you tell us a little bit more about what happened?
Yeah, maybe it's probably better not to say the country or the religious
Sure,
order.
that's what. Yeah.
And you know, you said that you didn't know what I did for so long. Like, people didn't.
Yeah.
You know, and I would even post pictures on Facebook, and people would go, "What are you doing in Darfur in 2007 or whatever?" And I would make jokes like I'm a location scout for, you know, Cheesecake Factory or whatever. But so yeah, there was this country that a civil war erupted, and this religious order was under relentless artillery fire. I mean, it was just really frightening. And my guys, my team, I modeled it. I'm a former infantryman, but I always really, since I was a little boy, was loved the Green Berets, wanted to be a Green Beret. And they're gentlemen. They're soldiers, but they're gentlemen. If you ever meet a Green Beret, they're the most refined men. You would think they're maybe a political philosophy professor or something. They're something else. They're very kind. They're very gentle. Like, they'll always have these very kind of sorrowful but warm eyes, because they've been around a lot of suffering, because they are around the communities that are suffering. So I always thought, you know, I joined the Army the day I turned 17. And at the time, I think I had to be 22 to go to SFAS. But in my experience as an infantryman, I realized that what these communities need is influence. And how you get influence And here I'm a high school dropout from the south side of Chicago, and I wrote this plan that I'm going to write books, I'm going to make movies, I'm going to run political campaigns, and I was just become obsessed. You know, I was reading. I first I forged my captain's signature to take college classes, and then when he called me out on it, he let me keep taking college classes.
Oh, how fun!
And yeah, and so when I got out of the Army after I did my time, you know, went to the University of Hawaii. But that was my mission, was to sort of use the A-team model, which is we don't bring an army of do-gooders from the United States into a place. We organize those communities and give them access to influence in the West, whether it's politics, whether it's our government, whether it's through celebrity, and hence movie to movement. You know, I use celebrities a lot, as you'll notice, thoughtfully. One of my master's degrees is in propaganda theory and frame analysis and transference. And so I had this idea of how in the mid 90s, and maybe we could talk later about how I was so passionately pro-life, but and an atheist, but in the mid 90s, to be pro-life, it was to swim up, you know, stream even more so than today. The partial birth abortion battle in the late 90s was a sea change in American public opinion. Right. So, and now the gender ideologies kind of murked things up again, I guess. But so, you know, it goes ebbs and flows. But so that was my sort of idea. So I'm wandering, but my whole point is that we wouldn't tell people what we would do because we use communities, local communities, to accomplish our missions.
Right.
We never wanted to put people in jeopardy. We never wanted to out the people who helped us accomplish things. And at the same time, when you help strong, dignified, beautiful people that are trapped when the world collides in on them, like the Afghan allies, when empire and history just like a wall wave tipped their boat over, it's embarrassing. Imagine being a proud, strong man or woman, and now you're an Uber driver. I know some of the most prominent, intelligent, hardworking Afghans that come from minority communities that today are Uber drivers. They don't complain either. So, but you don't want to make people in their moments of indignity. I feel, and I'm kind of a goofball, so I hate playing the role of the hero. And so we've been very quiet for many, many years about what we do. It was really Afghanistan where it became impossible for us to hide because the numbers were so high and so many journalists and so many people that worked for government agencies or worked for news agencies we rescued, that it got out.
Yeah.
And then it turned out not to be such a bad thing, you know. But as far as what we did together, right now it's still a very dangerous thing. And but yeah, I'm so grateful that you called me. And I thank God, you know, those nuns would be dead right now.
I know. Yeah.
And you're my friend. When people ask me how I did, someone just asked me about this thing we just did. How did you do it? I said, I called a friend.
Yeah.
I have friends. You called me. I called my friends. They called their friends. We put together a plan. I called my friends that are my donors. One of your friends that's a donor funded the whole thing. And we not only, by the way, you didn't know this, we did not only rescue those nuns, we rescued 800 other Christians and minorities.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding.
You reported it. Yeah, 800 others. And
wow.
Here's the sad thing that you don't know. One of our team members died. He was a 19-year-old boy.
Oh.
He was with his father and his uncles. They're from that country. They're our friends. And we don't go in there like hoo-ah Rangers. You know, we knit together communities, and those communities partner with us. And, you know, that young boy gave his life, but he saved hundreds of lives.
No kidding. Can you tell the story?
Yes. So the nuns had diabetes. So the first thing we had to do is get insulin there. You know, getting insulin in a country, one of the things VPP has been really good at is like specializing in insulin.
Yeah.
Like
no kidding.
We're working on strategies to get insulin into Artsakh, the Azerbaijan blockade of Armenian Christians. And so insulin is we take it for granted here, but it's very fragile. It's hard to get. It's hard to move. And it's necessary for life. So in Ukraine, that's one of the first things we did is we began, but we had to get these sisters insulin. They were one of them was diabetic and she was older and sick, and it was hard to move her. So they were under constant artillery fire, but our team members would go there every day to sit with the sisters during the artillery fire. And, you know, eventually convinced them because they were afraid to leave.
Oh, wow.
And, eventually convinced them to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process, the 19-year-old boy was shot by a sniper, probably Wagner Group. The Wagner Group was in the area. And, it's very sorrowful.
Yeah.
But Rene Girard says, when you stand with the vulnerable, you become as vulnerable as they are.
Right.
There is no escaping that. And his father and his uncle and his family are very proud. And I'm very sad. It's very hard. Oftentimes, I will go and do some of our missions that I don't need to do, just I think out of guilt. It's very challenging to ask people to do things while I'm drinking a coffee in my home office, listening to my kids play outside the door.
Yeah.
That was really, I have no shame saying this. After the Afghanistan initiative, I was so broken. I mean, I was just a broken person.
Mm.
And for maybe a year and a half, because it's still going, but the first year was just bonkers. And a friend of mine who's a psychiatrist, a Catholic psychiatrist, said, I have a friend that works with drone pilots. You should talk to her.
Huh.
I had one conversation with her and I was like out of it because I was feeling what drone pilots feel, right? They don't have skin in the game.
Yep.
They're in Nevada. They drop their kids off at school. They pick up Taco Bell. They show their badge. They drive through the gate. And they do their job. And their job is very traumatic. And sometimes the people we're working with, only twice have we had employees killed or contractors, but often, not often, too many times, especially in Afghanistan, the people we were trying to rescue, we fail.
Yeah.
And the first months we failed and failed and failed. We rescued a lot and we failed more. We failed a lot more than we rescued.
Well, in your attempt to rescue, you may have rescued them anyway.
Yeah, and that note, so many of them would ask me how to get baptized.
See, that's
people would say to me, like, do you proselytize? I'm like, never.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you serious? Does a fireman proselytize when he's pulling someone out of a burning building? I said, I do, I believe, because I wear my faith on my sleeve and I wear it on my neck and I wear, it's on our website and they search you, believe it or not, they can look about you on your phone and there's one community that we serve. It's not in Afghanistan. That so many of them have become Catholic, and I'm like, don't tell anyone me because no one's going to work with me. Right. And I never proselytize them because I say, look, if you work in a domestic abuse shelter, that's not the place to try to find a date.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I build relationships with so many of these people later, when they research me, when they find out who I am and why I do what I do, and I believe really only the gospel of Jesus Christ explains what we do as an organization. Because I'm like the worst guy, you cut me off in traffic. I'm going to, you want to fight?
Yeah.
You're like on the phone doing I'll be praying the rosary, Hail Mary, full of grace. I pray for my Afghan refugees. Someone cuts me off. It's pull over. That's me. Right. Yeah. Okay. But the work I do is Jesus Christ. And only, again, I'm going to go to Girard. I quote Girard all the time. He said, only the Holy Spirit is more powerful than the spirit of the age.
Yeah.
We find that we're standing up to the spirit of the age, like Bishop Strickland, that's by God's grace.
Yep. It's the thing is, as you are working to rescue people and you feel that failure and you're looking at that failure, that sorrow that you feel is the same sorrow that our blessed Lord feels when he died on the cross and when he reaches his bloody hand out to save humanity, to save us. And he sees the ones who don't take the hand or who die along the way. It's the same thing. So the reason it hurts you so deeply is because you want that success. You desire the good for their soul. And that's the highest form of love. It really is the highest form of love. And when you open yourself up that deeply with that high form of love, you allow yourself, you become the vulnerable person, as you said, but you become vulnerable here and it cuts deep. So what that sorrow that you're feeling when you're suffering in that sorrow, it's the same sorrow as Christ on the cross. When he's looking out through time and he sees all the people that aren't going to be saved. And how many times is he hearing the devil in his ear telling him, you see, you're a failure and you're going to be a failure. But it's also that same blood that saves you, that saves me, that saves the people watching. So that unity with Christ on the cross, it's an incredibly beautiful thing. And the gift that you have received to be able to do this is immense.
I think it's the grace all Catholics get again. You know, I think that other ecclesial communities, when they look to do works of mercy, they think they're doing it because it's going to make you feel great. It's going to give me purpose in life. I can promise you it's not going to feel great for very long, you know? And then you get a really wonderful blessing. I tell my wife sometimes, I'll say, honey, I am falling into despair, or I am despondent. And she will say, don't say that. I said, no, I'm not in despair. I'm just falling and I'm feeling it and I'm thinking about it and I'm grateful for it because this is how people feel.
Yeah.
And so when I'm sure oncologists feel this, emergency room doctors feel this, nurses feel this. There are a lot of professions. Teachers feel this, parents feel this.
Yeah.
So we all have this opportunity to suffer with others.
Yep.
And we should never run from it. You know, it's something Mel Gibson said that it wasn't Mel Gibson. It was that actor, Robert Downey, told a story when Mel Gibson was everyone hated him.
Yep.
He said, when I was in at my rock bottom, Mel Gibson told me to hug the cactus. Hug the cactus. And that really made an impact on me. Yeah. So when I'm near a cactus and it's prickling me, I'm like, oh, you want to prick me? I'm gonna hug you. Yeah. And then I'm like, this is how people feel. Yeah. All the time. This is how people feel in hospice when there's no one there. This is how a refugee feels when they're in hiding and there's no one to call. Thank you. And then God brings you out of it. Yep. And it's a grace. Think of Mother Teresa and her dark night of the soul that lasted 50 years. We'd be pretty naive to think Mother Teresa doing what she did never had a dark night of the soul. How crazy are we? That was a surprise. We should have been like, yeah, duh, of course. She was cleaning maggots out of children for 50 years. What do you think? Right. She was just skipping the slums, of course.
Right. It's like Padre Pio said when somebody asked him if the stigmata in his hands hurt, and he said, well, our Lord didn't give them to me as a decoration.
Exactly.
It's the same
That's
thing.
Awesome. Yeah.
So tell us about where you are now. Tell us about the devastation that you saw, what how you got to where you are, what it is that you're working on. Tell us about the miracle of the church itself.
All of you know more about the miracle of the church than I do, because since day one, I've been working to rebuild the community. And that's a lot of like what I do. It's a miracle. It's unbelievable. I'm here now with the parish, the priest. I can see him, and the sisters are right over there. And we're having a luau tonight for the school, the pop-up school. It is really a miracle. And it's really unbelievable. But here is how I got here. I came here as a 17-year-old soldier. Dropped out of high school the day I turned 17 and joined the Army. Joined the Army because my high school girlfriend was pregnant. We were going to hide it and get married and live happily ever after. Her father found out she was pregnant while I was in basic training, beat her up, took her to get a forced third trimester abortion at Chicago Masonic Hospital. Calls me. Chicago Masonic, and her father was a very prominent Catholic, by the way. My rabid anti-Catholicism was birthed at the same moment my pro-life zeal was birthed.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
And so, she called me crying and told me that her father told me what happened. And it just rocked my world, changed everything for me. Because I thought I was a strong man, a brave man, a bold man. I was an athlete. I was a football player. Now I was an infantryman. And here I was, like 5 states away, half a continent away, unable to do anything. And my girlfriend was crying like her soul was crying. And came to Hawaii. Hawaii rebuilt me. I was that infantryman that moved out of the barracks and lived with plantation workers for $200 a month. And quickly just became a part of the community and got mentors and friends in the Army, but really more in the community. Got out of the Army, stayed here, got married and had children here. Went to the University of Hawaii. So Hawaii has been my home since 1989, since I was a 17-year-old boy. I founded my organization in Hawaii in 2002 with the vision that I would go around the world and defend the vulnerable. The idea, everywhere we go in the world, we make a patch. So that country, I got to send you a hat. So that country we went, we got a new country patch.
All right.
I never thought I would have to make a Lahaina patch,
Wow.
Really unbelievable. So I was actually in DC working on in a Russian-occupied Ukraine. Every Catholic church has been shut down. Most of the all Protestant churches, but I think but one have been shut down.
Wow.
Brutal. And so I was and the media is not covering it. They're covering that Zelensky raided some Orthodox FSB listening posts, Russian intelligence outposts, but no one's really talking about the Catholic Church has been totally suppressed in Russia and in occupied Russia. Yeah, of course, the Russian Orthodox Church is integralist and brutal. So I was with Catholic leaders and evangelical leaders in DC. In the morning, I'm starting to hear this and can't believe what I'm hearing. And I shelve it because I had to do EWTN. I had to do Sebastian Gorka's show. I was meeting with members of Congress, and I had all these Ukrainians, religious leaders, call a native Hawaiian friend of mine, Dallas Carter, who runs a ministry called Epic Ministry. He's a native Hawaiian, beautiful Catholic apologist. He's principal of a school. Last year, every non-Catholic student in his school entered the CCD program to become Catholic. Everyone.
No, wow.
Great apologist. So I called him, Dallas. I'm a little embarrassed. I don't know what's happening in Hawaii. He goes, don't be embarrassed. None of us know. We're just hearing rumors. The rumors were unbelievable that the police locked them in, that Hawaiian Electric didn't de-energize the lines, that the breaks weren't maintained, that public school children were sent home, that the alarms didn't go off, and that text messages weren't sent, and that there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of missing people, and Lahaina's gone. And every rumor was true, okay? Exactly what happened with the water, I don't know. The power lines appear to have been de-energized, then re-energized. We don't know. Police most definitely didn't let the people leave. But these were Native Hawaiians in Kama'aina. They weren't doing this, all the kind of conspiracy theories, at the order of Klaus Schwab.
You're right.
They were probably down lines or wind was blowing in. I don't know what. We need to investigate and find out what happened, right? With the government's obfuscation and with their blatant dishonesty, they're lying about the numbers. It's not 115. We're talking hundreds, and hundreds of people missing still. And it's on page B17. So, of course.
Did you see the video of one of the, I think it was one of the city officials or one of the regional officials who was in charge of the water. And he said, we're not going to release the water because water is sacred.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I saw it. Unbelievable. So I think this was the Democrat Party runs this state, and they have a bunch of ideologues that order their decisions to absurd ideologies and outside special interests, not the lives of their constituents. The breaks were most definitely not maintained. That is a fact. The power lines weren't buried because they didn't want to waste money on energy that wasn't green energy. Of course, the power lines are buried in the affluent communities. That's not a waste of money. But, historic Lahaina, where you have hurricanes, no need to bury those lines. Breaks weren't maintained. I think at the very least, we have at the very least, without some of these wild conspiracy theories that may or may not be true. I didn't believe the police stop people from leaving. But, at the very least, you have a state government and a county government that is completely beholden to powerful outside special interests that use the green ideology to make money. And they've indoctrinated these people like they're in a cult to the point that they might as well drink Kool-Aid because they've killed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Maui's residents. Wow. They could have just as easily given them Kool-Aid.
Right.
Because that's what happened.
So then you were in the States when this happened.
Yeah, so I wasn't going to come. I have very good connections in Hawaii. We have Epic Ministries and a lot of team partners. We were assembling, we began fundraising. I just couldn't sleep for 2 nights. I didn't sleep. So I just said, you know what? I'm going there. If I can't sleep, I might as well work. And strangely enough, I came here, I worked all day. We didn't only pay for the pay for the planes and pay for the boats and unload the boats and unload the planes. Then I drove the, U-Haul around to the families that were displaced, giving them the necessities of life. Then I would go to my little hotel room and pass out.
Yeah,
So
I'm sure.
I would pass out. And as you can tell, I'm pretty exhausted right now, but I mean, it's great to, you can do all the logistical work, you can do all the fundraising, but it's a real grace to actually, hand people what the donors made available. And that's the one thing I wish the donors could feel what they do, like the donors that save these women. One of my donors said, never thank me. It's like, does the quarterback thank the center every time he hikes the ball? Like, there's no play if I don't hike the ball. If the donor doesn't hike the ball, there's no saving nuns. So, but I wish the center could feel what it's like when you're handing a young kid a backpack filled with, Gatorade and candy. And I just emptied a candy store. Tonight, when all the parents come here, I'm going to say, I think all the moms know, never let the dads do the shopping. I saw this candy store when I was on the other side of the island. I said to my son, let's go empty that store. So now all these students are going to come. We have one of the best chefs in Maui. They're going to give 450 members of the parish and the school community and the teachers and administrators the night of their life.
Wow.
Best food, lily koi juice, everything. And on top of that, they're going to have a lot of candy.
So you're there. You got all these jet skis to bring parts of an inflatable school. So explain how that works.
It's not inflatable. It's like it's a pop-up school. So there were these old buildings that no one was using. So we shipped this table was in a boat that was handed to guys. I'll send you video.
Yeah,
to guys as we would hand it. These containers, these chairs, everything you see came from Oahu.
Wow.
This saw Play-Doh came from Oahu.
Oh, no kidding.
These were all in boxes, like, cardboard boxes, and separated by what these are divided up for teachers and classrooms. So like here you got, I don't know what these are. You got Play-Doh and blocks. I don't know. But all this came by boat. All this was handed to people from, jet skis would zoom up. You got to see it. Jet skis would zoom up. And in fact, I didn't know there was a cameraman there. And I said to my son, this is one of those beautiful moments in life where I go, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And no one's going to see it because there's no cameras. I didn't know there was a guy up with like a nice camera and he made a little video. It's really cool. Yeah.
So you put a pop-up school. How big is it? Is it like a big tent or?
No, so there were these abandoned buildings. These buildings that were sort of, I think they're on the property of the Ritz over here, near the Mission Church, and so all these empty rooms that I don't know when they were ever used last. They're just these kind of old buildings, and then all the desks, all the chalkboards, all the pencils and papers, and all the school books and everything. Yeah, we brought that all over, but from on boat, jet ski, bucket brigade, truck, bucket brigade.
So you've been able to actually get this school back up and running then?
Yeah, it's up and running. Sacred Heart School is up and running. Thanks to Epic Ministries and Vulnerable People Project and Mrs. Tanada and the principal and all her teachers and staff that are tireless, heartbroken. I can't imagine doing this. Now, here's the good news. There's a lot of public school students missing. Every Catholic school student was accounted for.
No kidding. Praise be to God. Wow.
Yeah. So.
Wow. So, how long are you planning on being there, and what's kind of on the docket?
Well, I have to leave next Wednesday. I have to go to Europe for some other projects. But my mission after this is we want to expand the school. Hawaii, believe it or not, people think it's this rich place. The people here have the highest cost of living, lowest pay, and median home is over $1 million. So the average home, I believe, has 7 co-signers, and you have multi-generations living in a home. Wow. So there's just no way on God's green earth that they can raise the money. So I asked the principal, Mrs. Tanada, to give me her big, hairy, audacious goal to make sure every Catholic student in Lahaina can go to school, and we can build it out and meet every need. And I'm going to have to raise about $800,000 over the next several months. Basically, I have to raise $100,000 a month. So I'm hitting the ground running. I fly to the mainland next week, and I'm just going to fly. I've done a lot of things for a lot of people like you, friends. Hey, save this person, save that person. And now I'm going to go, remember, my home now.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I told him I'm going to hunt the tiger. I don't know if I'm going to catch the tiger. But, we were very grateful that I was able to give her $40,000 yesterday for another 50 scholarships for the month.
That's awesome.
So I said, just let me do it month to month. And all the businesses in my new hometown, we left Hawaii 2 years ago for New Braunfels, Texas. All the business leaders in my new town are committing to raising. They said, we want to raise you $500,000 by the end of November. So yeah, I know what it's like to have goals. I set goals. I usually fall on my face. It's a beautiful goal, and they're smart, hardworking, successful guys. So yeah, that's my next job, is to do the fundraising.
So we have a question here. Michelle asks, how can we help?
Is this live?
Yeah, it's live.
I did not know. So sorry. Aloha, everybody. I had no clue. Yeah. So our website is hopeforhawaii.com. Hopeforhawaii.com. That's if you want to donate for Hawaii. Our website for the organization is thegreatcampaign.org, thegreatcampaign.org, and you can donate there. But when you donate at hopeforhawaii.com, every penny goes directly to help for funerals and schools, the two things we're committed to. That work of mercy of burying our dead, because the other organizations do only pay for cremation, and we want to make sure that whatever's left, so many of these people, obviously there's not, I don't even want to say it, but we want them to have Catholic burials.
Yep.
And as Catholic layman, I want to assist the bishop in making sure that every Catholic child in this community can continue to have Catholic education. So when you donate at hopeforhawaii.com, you can know we're doing the work of mercy of supporting families that need help burying their loved ones, and we're paying for schools. Everything we do, too, has an educational component. I say what we do is we educate through action. So when you prioritize burial, you tell the community there's hope, there's life after death.
Right.
Human beings have an eternal destiny. And that community,
that even in death, we have dignity.
That's right. And so that's what we want to do as a little Catholic apostolate. So thank you for asking.
Absolutely. So just so that everybody knows, Jason Jones and the Vulnerable People Project, they are on our Safe Charities list. So if you miss where to go and how to find out, is the Hawaii this Hawaii project specifically listed on your Vulnerable People Project website?
No, so it goes into the same account, but what it does is it allows us, for accounting purposes, for the donors to know it's donor directed. Okay. So it's donor directed. In fact, it goes to an account in Hawaii.
Okay.
So if you donate at thegreatcampaign.org, it goes to our main account, and it would go to our general fund. And we love that. We love monthly donors. We love you to support the work. But I suspect you're probably going to really be inspired to stand with these families, these Catholic families, these Hawaiian and Kama'aina Catholic families, and help us. I tell you, Michael, all these kids are going to get their education. I have a lot of friends. I'm calling them all up. If you're my friend, your phone's going to ring. And if your phone doesn't ring, that means I don't like you. You better call me and win my affection back by making a large donation.
There we go. Well, we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that people know how to get money to the people of Hawaii, so that you can help them, so that you can fulfill your mission to help bury the dead, to help educate the children, and to maintain the community and help to build it back up. I mean, the devastation there is awful, and we know that, let's face it, the government's not going to do anything to help these people. Biden said something about $700 per family, which is laughable.
The governor said he'd buy their property. Then he suggested shipping them to the mainland. He said, I'll save you by buying. Don't worry, the state of Hawaii will buy your property. these Hawaiian and Kama'aina families who their ancestors worked the plantations,
right,
built Lahaina that we love. This is their home. They lose Lahaina. They lose everything. They're not going to the mainland. Like, what are you talking about? Like, Lahaina is their home. So we are, our three missions are actually bury the dead, care for the living, and keep Lahaina local.
yeah,
And I am grateful. I've often felt guilty. My children are Hapa Haole, as we say. They're Pacific Islander, Chinese, and me. And I often have felt guilty that over the years I've done so much work in other places. But now I realize, I was telling my daughter who runs it's called the Mu'u Library. If you're ever in Honolulu, she has the largest collection of vintage women's aloha wear in the world.
really,
And in the upstairs, where you can get a library membership and check one out. And upstairs they have sewing machines and patterns for historic mu'u. And they have the cloth for the members, and you can make your own mu'u. And I said to her, Princess, I've often felt guilty. I know my work pours into the house.
yep,
I do pours into the house.
yeah,
And I've been away a lot, and it means a lot to my oldest daughter especially. I said, but by God's grace, in the first couple of weeks, we really made, I think, probably the biggest impact here of any organization. And I'm sad that I had to do it, but I am grateful that 25 years of working around the world, I've been able to leverage that, and will continue to leverage it for my family, my friends, and my neighbors.
Give me that website one more time. I'm going to put it here in the comments, and I'll put it up on the screen too.
It's hopeforhawaii.com.
So
as the sun sets, I get darker and darker. Pretty soon I'll just be a shadow.
So hopeforhawaii.com. And I'm going to go ahead and put that on the screen so that people who are not in the chat room but want to see it on the screen, they can see it. hopeforhawaii.com. Please check it out. Go give whatever you can to help Jason Jones and the Vulnerable People Project as they are. I mean, you're the shock troops. You're the Marines of this kind of aid and development work. And in many ways, you're the ones who go on the ground. You're first on the ground. You were first on the ground in several locations that you were telling me about earlier today when we talked. Before even some of the international.
We're the first on the ground in the country where you needed us to help, right? And
yeah,
I had all these kind of military groups calling me saying, we can do that for $4 million. And I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it. It's done. We did it for 60,000. And because we do it more like Victor Laszlo, in Casablanca.
Oh yeah.
Oscar Schindler, Rick at Rick's Cafe. This is how it was done in World War II. This is how it's done. We're Catholic men. We know Catholic men. We know Catholic men in this government. We know Catholic men in that government. We know Muslim men who we're friends with in that government or in that institution or in this organization. And so that's how we really work. It's really just friendships. It's the apostolate. I always tell people, when you come to work for me, I'm like, we work through the apostolate of friendship.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. You're my friend. When you called me, of course, there was just no way in the world. Your friend called you to help her friend.
Yeah.
You called me to help your friend's friend.
Yeah.
I called my friends in that country and said, we have to rescue these nuns. And that's how it works.
Well, I think it's called the mystical body of Christ.
That's what it's called.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. I know you're exhausted. And I also know you're getting ready to go celebrate with those kids. And that's so awesome. I'm so happy for what you're doing. And I'm so grateful for you doing what you're doing, taking the time to be on the show, to share your story. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And once again, I just want to throw this on the screen one more time and encourage people, please go to Hope for Hawaii, help Jason out, help out the Vulnerable People Project as he is going on the ground to really just establish that bulkhead to that beachhead to get in there and to help the people when they need it the most. And I'm so grateful for you and everything that you're doing.
Well, I'm grateful for you, brother. And thank you for giving us your seal of approval. That means a lot. And it means a lot in my work, because I was sharing with you earlier, like, why don't you tell people about this? I'm like, who would believe me?
Right. Yeah.
What we did for you. Who would believe me, really?
Yeah. Well, I do, because we collaborated. So
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, you bet. You bet. All right, we're going to close with an Ave Maria. So that's what we always do. And I just want to say, everybody, I hope that you enjoyed tonight's program. Please click like and subscribe on this video, because it really will help get the message of what Jason's doing, of what the Vulnerable People Project is doing, get it out to as many people as possible. And we'll go ahead and close with our Ave. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. Our Lady of Victory, pray for us. Nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Jason, thank you so much. God bless you, brother. Have a great evening. Enjoy those kids.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
All right. God bless.
God bless.